What happens when the WNBA's most valuable asset decides she's had enough? When Caitlin Clark leaned into Sue Bird's microphone and delivered 6 words that would echo through every boardroom, locker room, and social media timeline in professional women's basketball, she wasn't just voicing frustration, she was executing the most calculated power move in recent WNBA history.
Like, the hardest part has just been like the stop and go of everything. Like,
Yeah.
And also like with the type of injuries that I've dealt with, like there's no real, it's not like 6 weeks. All right, you're coming back for the Connecticut Sun game on August
all about how you
30th
feel in the moment.
or whatever. It's like, how do you feel? Like, and even like when I have been back, like, I don't know how I'm going to feel the next day after playing, like when you're dealing with like these type of injuries. So I think just like the patience of dealing with all of that and giving myself a lot of grace and just trying to be the best.
In a league experiencing unprecedented growth with more than 54 million unique viewers across ABC, CBS, ESPN, ESPN2, ION, and NBA TV tuning in during 2024, one rookie's strategic challenge to authority would expose fractures that run deeper than any missed call. The timing wasn't accidental, the platform wasn't random, and the aftermath? It's still unfolding in ways that could fundamentally reshape how stars interact with league officials. But here's what most people missed while debating whether she was right or wrong. Clark had been watching, studying, and waiting for the perfect moment to flip the script entirely. Picture the scene. Clark sits on the sidelines, sidelined by injury but mentally locked in like never before. While her teammates battle through games, she's got something most active players don't: the luxury of complete perspective. From the bench, patterns emerge that blur together in the heat of competition. She watches drives go uncalled, sees inconsistent positioning from officials, and notices which players get the benefit of doubt while others don't. This isn't casual observation, it's film study with stakes attached. Every game becomes evidence. Every missed whistle, another data point in a growing file of grievances. The injury that kept her off the court paradoxically gave her the clearest view of what was happening on it. But Clark's true strategic genius lies in her understanding of timing and leverage. The WNBA was already facing intense scrutiny over officiating, with coaches getting technical fouls for questioning calls and fans dissecting referee decisions on social media within minutes of games ending. The commissioner's tone-deaf declaration that winning teams don't complain about officiating had already ignited tensions across the league. Into this powder keg walks a player who represents everything the WNBA wants to protect: star power, marketability, and the kind of mainstream attention that drives record viewership numbers up 139% over the previous season. The moment arrives on Sue Bird's podcast, and it's surgical in its precision. "I wouldn't miss a call," Clark states with the kind of calm confidence that makes headlines. Those 6 words weren't spoken in anger. They were delivered with the calculated impact of someone who understands exactly how far their voice travels. Bird's reaction says everything. The knowing smile, the slight head tilt of someone recognizing they've just witnessed a seismic shift. This wasn't teammate griping to teammate. This was the league's most marketable star issuing a direct challenge to institutional authority on one of the most respected platforms in women's basketball. The digital explosion was immediate and devastating. Within hours, Sir Clark was right began trending nationally, not just regionally. Fans became digital detectives, tagging Clark in video compilations of questionable calls from other games, effectively deputizing her as the unofficial quality control officer for WNBA officiating. With a 413% increase in WNBA social media engagement, already driving conversations, Clark's comment became the match that ignited a firestorm of scrutiny around every referee decision. Sports talk shows dissected her words, fan forums analyzed game footage with forensic precision, and suddenly, every whistle or lack thereof involving any star player became part of a broader narrative about league integrity. Behind closed doors, the league fractured along predictable lines. Sources describe a leadership team caught between impossible choices: discipline their biggest revenue generator and risk turning her into a martyr, or stay silent and watch her narrative dominate the conversation. Some executives wanted swift action, a private conversation reminding Clark that certain criticisms belong behind closed doors. Others recognized the existential threat in that approach, with viewership up 148% in Canada and record-setting numbers across all platforms. Muzzling the player driving those numbers could backfire spectacularly in an era where social media can transform athletes into global causes overnight. The referee union presented another complication entirely. Word leaked that officials felt personally attacked. their professionalism questioned by someone who'd never worked their job. Yet even within their ranks, quiet acknowledgments emerged that Clark's critique wasn't baseless, data showing inconsistencies in foul calls had been circulating for months among analysts and coaches. The union found itself in the uncomfortable position of defending practices that some members privately questioned while dealing with the unprecedented scrutiny that Clark's platform had unleashed on their every decision. Clark's return to the court transformed every game into a live experiment in power dynamics. From the opening tip, the arena atmosphere felt different, charged with the electricity of audiences waiting to see if officials would prove or disprove her public challenge. Every drive to the basket carried extra weight, every point of contact drew immediate crowd reactions, and every no call became potential viral content. Media outlets began tracking referee calls involving Clark with microscopic attention, turning routine officiating decisions into national talking points. The league had never experienced a single player whose treatment by referees commanded this level of real-time analysis and public debate. But Clark understood something deeper than just getting favorable calls. Her comments about facing constant, full-court pressure weren't just basketball terminology. They were coded language for the broader institutional pressures she faced as the league's most scrutinized player. By speaking out publicly, she had effectively created a new standard: treat star players fairly or face the viral consequences. This wasn't just about one player's grievances anymore. It was about establishing player protection as a public expectation, rather than a private hope. The ripple effects extended far beyond basketball courts into corporate boardrooms where the real power lies. Whispers emerged from sponsor circles suggesting that major brands had quietly pressed the league for stronger player protection protocols, with Clark's name specifically mentioned in these conversations. The logic was coldly financial, with WNBA teams generating record $136 million in sponsor media value. Her health and availability directly correlated with advertising revenue and broadcast ratings. When corporate partners start aligning with a player's public position against league practices, that's not just athlete activism, that's market pressure at its most effective. The business implications grew more complex as fan theories gained traction across social media platforms. Reddit threads and Twitter discussions popularized the idea that rival teams might be deliberately using extra physicality against Clark, knowing that sidelining her would not only weaken Indiana, but remove the spotlight player capable of shifting momentum in any quarter. While Commissioner Kathy Engelbert announced they would be looking into officiating, the perception alone fueled calls for rule modifications to protect marquee players from targeted aggression. Perhaps most significantly, reports surfaced of internal discussions about modifying officiating guidelines mid-season, something rarely attempted, to emphasize player safety for star performers. The catch was obvious. Implementing such changes would essentially validate Clark's original criticism, opening the door for other players to challenge league authority using her playbook. Every potential response carried the risk of admitting that the rookie sensation had been right from the beginning. Clark's calculated gamble reveals something fundamental about power dynamics in modern professional sports. For decades, athletes were conditioned to keep grievances private, to trust that leagues would handle problems quietly and fairly. But social media obliterated that playbook. Now a single comment can become a cultural debate in hours, and players with Clark's reach can weaponize that influence to force institutional change faster than any traditional negotiation. The long-term implications stretch far beyond officiating reforms. With women's sports viewership grown 90% in the US, and Clark's draft drawing 2.4 million viewers, a 328% increase from 2023, her model of public challenge could inspire the next generation of stars to see speaking out as standard practice rather than career risk. Younger players entering the pipeline are already watching how fan bases rally behind athletes who call out perceived unfairness, potentially transforming WNBA culture from private grievances to public accountability. The question isn't whether Clark was right about the officiating, it's whether her method of challenging authority will become the new template for player-league relations. Every movement needs a catalyst, and in the WNBA, that spark might have been 6 words delivered with perfect timing on the perfect platform by the one player the league couldn't afford to ignore. What happens next will determine whether this was a singular moment of friction or the beginning of a fundamental power shift. But one thing is certain, the next time a star player has grievances with league practices, they'll remember how Caitlin Clark turned a podcast appearance into a masterclass in strategic confrontation. Ready to dive deeper into the strategies that reshape professional sports? Subscribe for more behind-the-scenes analysis of the power plays that change the game forever. Because when you understand the chess moves, you'll never watch sports the same way again. What did you think of Clark's strategic timing? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let us know if you've noticed similar power dynamics in other leagues. The conversation doesn't end here. It evolves with every game, every call, and every player brave enough to speak truth to power.